Do y'all do anything like protecting women? Looks like Jasmine Crockett needs help. Um, listen. That's a very interesting question. Matter of fact, politics is a very interesting game. Politics is a very interesting game. The left and the right are both a part of a dragon. That dragon is America, and she shall fall. And anybody attached to that dragon shall fall. The belief in the letter of the law will fall. My goal is to build our own world, and for those who seek assistance and those who seek out assistance, especially any of our sisters, they can receive assistance. But I cannot help the dragon itself. You get what I'm saying? See, we live in a complex world, right? And in this complex world, we are not given the grace, right, to truly build with each other, because you have to get to a point where you say F all the moral standards and the hypocrisy that people place upon you in order to really be great and ascend in this world. Because they will try to judge you for everything that you do. And what you have to do is you have to step outside their sphere of judgment to where no matter what they cast upon you, it don't matter. It'll be like throwing pebbles, you understand me, at a giant, and not with a slingshot. And what I mean by that is we are living in a world where, as a creator, as a leader, as an influencer, as whatever it is, there's people who want to see you fail. You talk to one person, oh my God, you're a Democratic shield. If you talk to the right, you've been sold out. And then I think about leaders in history, how they had the ability to form alliances, sometimes with their enemies, to go against a greater enemy. They were able to do deals, but only because they felt it benefited the collective, because they thought as a collective. But we don't think as a nation, and we think as an individual, so we punish anybody for doing anything, right? Because we don't have a collective nation in which we're bringing back things to. Meaning that, let's say you go to the right side and you go get a deal done with them, right? But that was for the benefit of your collective nation. Everybody would agree, you know what, right? I appreciate you doing that because I see a picture that is bigger than yourself. It was for the collective. But when we're individuals, we can't see what an individual is doing because we don't know what we're a part of and how it benefits us, right? And so you're almost not even allowed to move in the way in which you would need to in order to build that nation, to form different alliances, to form different treaties. Because find me a country out here that is righteous. Find me a nation that is righteous, that does not have treaties with some people that are unrighteous. That's the way the world works. You have to be permitted to move across this planet Earth, making the moves you make that will ultimately benefit people in the long run, even if they don't understand it in the short form. But I don't think that no leadership would be given that kind of grace. You would have to be hated by your own people in order to fight for their freedom. So you then are faced with the dilemma. Do I live being hated by the people who I love? Or do I live being loved by those people? But if I live being loved by those people, then I can't be as effective. This is a dilemma that we are faced with because of short-sightedness in our community. So what I thought of is, again, you can do it regardless. And you can just say, forget it. You can live above, right, those cares. You can live above those worries, right? And you have to execute regardless because it's the only way you break the chain. So You have to keep going and keep executing. And then when people have the consciousness and the foresight and the hindsight, rather, they will look back and say, I understand the moves that were being made. That is why most people are hated. Leaders are hated while they're living. And it is only hindsight in which you can then look back at their lives and see how they fit into the collective puzzle. That is the human dynamic. And then they can understand, oh, I get what they were doing. But the people at that time couldn't see it because they were too busy being in it, trying to control what those people can do. This is why building your own nation is the only way, because you have a highly aligned community, and therefore anything you do for your nation is correct. You know, you watch the movie, Black Panther. Ice Cube is a good example, but if you watch the movie Black Panther, T'Challa said that, listen, man, I got my nation to worry about. I don't worry about everybody. He said, I'm the king, you understand me, of my nation, not the whole entire diaspora. And think about that. There are African nations to this day that have a lot of money, but you know, we don't have a nation that is doing business with them, right? It is not until like you can be a country like Burkina Faso and then have alignment with Russia because y'all have a common enemy in the West or a common enemy in Europe. You get what I'm saying? And now we can justify all of his moves, even though he started off in the military. And he had a coup, which means that he killed his own people to take over that military. But we can see in hindsight why it was necessary. But do you think he would have got the blessings of the people beforehand? No. You think the world would be singing his praises beforehand? No. They would tell him that those measures are too extreme and things of that nature. You can't work with those people and this. They would destroy him in the eyes of the public if he had not controlled his narrative on social media. Because we have new factors in it. And when the sentiment of the public is against you, it allows the enemy to come get you. It is a much more complex web that we weave today than ever before. It is a much more complex world that we weave today. So the level of thoughtfulness and warfare that one has to apply to lead correctly today is at the highest level that it's ever been. The highest level that it's ever been. So you have to think. You have to think. Then act. And so the best way to do it is find other people who are highly aligned that believe in what you believe. And if they believe in what you believe, then it makes it that much easier when you all trust each other to get things done. The only thing that stops Black America, Brown America, any part of America from doing something is trust. That's the only thing. With trust, you can speed any process up infinitely faster. If I say, hey, give me all the money you got in your bank, I'm about to go flip it real quick, and you trust me to do that, I can then go gather billions of dollars from Black America, then what would happen? We would build something that could never been done before. But instead, what you do is you have to destroy the trust of anybody growing. So what you do is you create an impossible, archetype for them to have to become. When a person has to be perfect in order for you to trust them. That means that nobody can say nothing against them. They can have no flaws in their record. They can have no L's that they've ever taken, right? Like you have to be perfect in a lot of ways for Black leadership. And nobody can actually live up to this. Because there is no such thing as perfect, because depending on who's looking at what you're doing, there's always going to be criticism. But it will be enough if we can weaken the trust, then therefore you will never align with the people that you're trying to help. So therefore, no matter how great you become, they stifle your progress. That is what the enemy does. They run an intelligence program on you, and they see how do we disconnect your power from the people who believe you. They don't have to do too much, just a little bit for our people, because our people a lot of times don't want to believe in things. We already have a negative mindset because there's so much trauma. So when you understand that and you look at social media and I see people believing things that I've never done before. And I'm like, how do you combat that? You don't. You run your own narrative. And your narrative has to become greater than the one that the devil put out there for you. Because arguing against a false narrative only makes you look weak. That's not the way to do it. There's a way to respond to everything. There's a way to move forward. So that goes for any of you all out there as well. As you're on social media, you have to have the mental combat skills, because social media is no longer just a place for fun. It is a place where militaries and countries and companies are running psychological operations to try to control the consciousness of the people. They will practice narrative warfare to control the ideas and the stories in which you believe, to shape those narratives and ideas and stories. When you're on here, you have to take a step back and you have to think. Is this information real? You understand me? Is this thing that you are looking at on your screen, is it even in alignment with who I am? Who benefits from this? If I believe this information, who benefits from this? Peace to the family, peace to the God. I appreciate y'all as always.